Yeah. How y'all doing today? WWE has come to the terms on the releases of Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Ruby Riott, Buddy Murphy, Lana, and Santana Garrett as of about 4 hours ago. This came directly from WWE on their Twitter profile. And there has been lots of follow-ups on this in the wrestling media, most specifically from our friend Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Select. A lot of elaboration on some of these releases and why this current batch of WWE releases makes so little sense. I mean, this is a huge shocker. We just did a video like this a couple weeks back, right, when they released a bunch of people. Those were surprising, but kind of at the end of the day, you could almost justify most of them in terms of WWE. None of it is the fault of their own, just based on what WWE is doing and how fucking stupid they are. You could kind of like see it. There's a couple of names on here that are extremely surprising, specifically Braun Strowman. We're going to get into the details of this and follow up a little bit on what might have led to some of these releases today and if there's a bigger picture involved here and if there's going to be more releases. I tried to wait as long as I could to do a stream today once I saw this news. Thank you, everyone who woke me up this morning with lots of Twitter tags and notifications to find out about this stuff. And there's been a lot of talk that this might just be the beginning and there could be some more cost-cutting budget cut type of stuff going on where they're really going to trim some major contracts here. So we'll see if any more happen. I hope not. But I think the news is big enough today to where I can come up here and at least do a live stream before I have to head to work tonight. So it's either do one now or never. So you might see me again tomorrow, depending on what happens tonight, tomorrow, whatever. But we're here to specifically talk about this first batch of 5 releases. 4 of the 5 of these are very surprising. Santana Garrett, I loved her. I thought she was great, but really WWE had no plans for her at all. They brought her up for no reason, which is what they do with everybody. But they literally brought her up with no plan, no vision, no ideas, no nothing. She just sat there, became expendable, and they cut her. It's all their fault. So she's kind of like not that surprising just based on, the level of star she was and that they just weren't doing anything with her. But the rest of them, and all of them, including Garrett, all 5 of these are going to find work. I'm not too worried about that. It sucks that they lost their jobs here, but there's jobs for all of them, and you know that with a couple of these names for sure. But in the end, it's just like, what went into this? What is WWE's reasoning behind this? They just spent a ton of money repackaging and revamping Aleister Black. They even apparently recorded a new theme song for him to be debuting. He just attacked Big E and kicked off a program with him. And now all that's over, and he's released. I guess this means that his wife, Zelina, isn't going to be coming back either because she was seen at the Performance Center doing some filming, and it was under the impression that she was going to be brought back into the fold. Well, now with him gone, that probably ain't going to happen. What does this mean for AEW? Are they going to bust out the checkbook here? Their talent roster is filling out. They're not in a position where they're going to sign every single piece of released WWE talent, but there are going to be some pieces of released WWE talent that you simply cannot ignore, Strowman and Black being 2 of those. So, it's going to be interesting, I think, for the future. I'm sorry, I got a cat hair in my eye, and I'm just trying to get it out of my face. It's going to be interesting for the future just to see how this changes the overall wrestling landscape. And we're going to talk about what this could potentially mean. A lot of chatter, no confirmation. None of the trusted news sources that I care about are reporting anything concrete here. But there have been discussions that when you're doing massive cuts like this, what are you trying to position? What is Nick Khan up to? When you're shedding, contracts like this, what sort of numbers are you looking to get to here? Are you talking about a potential sale? And we've talked about the potential sale of WWE for the past 2 years or so. I think right when some of the crazy TV deals started coming in, I think that's when we here on the podcast were talking about stuff like WrestleMania being bought by like Fox or CBS and turned into like a Super Bowl. And now you've got a WrestleMania loaded with commercial breaks and shit like that. But when you think about what kind of money, still got this cat hair in my face. When you think about what kind of money that could bring into WWE, it's astronomical. They would absolutely sell out WrestleMania. They would sell out all of us in a heartbeat for that kind of money. But then it even got the line of thinking grew even beyond that to where it might not just be WrestleMania. It might not just be the content moving over to Peacock. It might be the whole damn banana here. It might be the whole company. So that is at least being talked about. And we're going to have to elaborate more on that in days and weeks to come. Really nothing that we can speculate on here, honestly. But it makes you wonder when you do have competition out there that does exist Whether they have fans that hate him or not, doesn't matter. AEW is there. They're gaining momentum. They're doing well, and they're signing a lot of people. They've got money. They're well-funded, and they care, And they are more than willing, it seems like, to pick up talent and pay them and use them, and I would love to see Braun Strowman, who at one time, you guys remember here on this channel, how in love with him I was during that feud with Roman Reigns. I'm like, this is the next big thing. I was like, this guy is the next Brock Lesnar or just monster babyface heel, whatever they want to make him, because of how he handled himself in that feud with Roman Reigns, how he owned him, how he manhandled him, how he threw him off of loading docks and tipped over buses. He was badass. And he fell victim to WWE's ridiculous creative shit. And, next thing you know, he's teaming with Nicholas, and now they're making choo-choo train noises when he runs around the ring. They've completely murdered any sort of potential for this guy to be the top star in the company. I thought it was there. And we're going to talk about him first and what Fightful reported on, because apparently this was due probably to a pretty big cost-cutting measure here. And he did have a big contract, one that was renegotiated just a couple of years ago. So, it's sometimes, when you hold out and you get that big money, sometimes that can actually hurt you in the long run if they decide you might be expendable or you're just not worth that money, which Braun Strowman clearly isn't. Has he been on TV lately? No. Last time he was kind of trying to challenge for the title, but he's lost a lot lately. Lashley and Drew have both recently beat him clean on TV. He was only champion last year because Roman left. And he's not, is he really worth that $1 million? So, now he can go to AEW. I'd love to see him there, honestly. And before anybody starts with that, they're just WWE rejects. Braun Strowman and Aleister Black are not WWE rejects. Braun Strowman and Aleister Black are people who should have jobs in top promotions in the world, whether it be here, Japan, wherever. They deserve jobs, top spots in big companies. Doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't mean that they're just signing anybody. The AEW is not TNA. These are pieces of talent that I think can be very useful and valuable over there. So, I just look for them there, and see what, forget Braun's real name. I think it's Adam, see what they can do with him there, or if he goes there or whatever happens. It should be interesting. You've got a guy there that could, that could help, It's like WWE is almost like giving a lot of talent away, because I've said this forever. We've all said this. They have too much talent than they know what to do with, which is part of the reason why they struggle so hard creatively. It's just because there's so much there, and it's just so much to almost keep track of. They can't do it. There's too much talent, and they can't even manage the people they have. And so, them just kind of releasing a bunch of guys, getting the weight off of their shoulders, letting them go elsewhere. I mean, it seems like they don't have too much concern with AEW, because if they're letting guys like this go that AEW will use better, especially Aleister Black. So for them just to basically hand over talent is pretty crazy that they're doing that. Like I said, they're all going to be fine, but I feel bad that they lost their jobs. They're leaving their friends. Bailey had such a touching tweet just a little while ago, like within the hour, talking about Dory, who is Ruby Riott, how she, was really good about, organizing things for the locker room, doing birthday parties and buying roses for the dog moms on Mother's Day, and just a really, really nice human being. And it's just sad when you hear about somebody like that. A lot of people were even tweeting who work in the company currently, like Renee Young, or used to work in the company like Renee Young, but also worked there like Alexa Bliss and Bailey. Everybody was showing a lot of love and support for these men and women today, which was nice to see. And like I said, a lot of it's just shocking. So we'll kind of go through these individually here, these releases, and talk about, where we think their future will take them, if we think we will see them back in WWE. Some people have mentioned maybe Braun Strowman can do some contract renegotiations. Who knows? I think he's better off just getting the hell out of there right now, because they seem like they were a company that did not know what to do with him. It shouldn't be that hard to get a guy like Strowman over. He is pretty funny, and he is pretty believable in terms of being a badass. He can be decent on the mic when he wants to be. He's got that monster voice. He's very, very, very marketable. And any failures that Strowman has seen has been due to WWE, and that's coming from a guy who doesn't even like Braun Strowman very much after he blocked me when he was last year during the pandemic, when he was basically telling people who lost their jobs due to the pandemic that they don't work hard enough. And I'm like, excuse me? And I was very nice in my response. I didn't trigger me. I didn't go off on him or anything like that. I was just like, dude, that's kind of fucking stupid and pretty damn tone deaf. And he blocked me, and I haven't given a shit about him since. But I really do think that he's a guy that could make money in WWE, and they should have used right. And I don't think any of his on-TV failures had much to do with him. Got himself in great shape. He's improved year by year as he's been in the company. And from a physical standpoint, why is WWE letting him go? He's like Vince's, go-to type of look. I am still struggling to get this cat hair out of my eye, so I wet a paper towel. That's the struggles of live YouTube. Anyway, can I see now? Anyway. So he's probably just the biggest surprise just because he's so WWE tailor-made, You can understand somebody like Buddy Murphy because how many times has WWE had great talent in the ring, like 5-star wrestling match-capable wrestlers on the roster that they don't know what the fuck to do with, and they wind up releasing. Ricochet is a guy like that. Ali is a guy like that. You have to worry about their futures, and when you see Buddy Murphy, who is just unbelievably talented, and for them not to be able to figure something out, at least that's something we're used to because Buddy isn't like Braun. He doesn't have the size of Braun. He doesn't stand out like Braun. Buddy is just a really good, solid in-ring wrestler, one of the best in the world, but there's a lot that are there that have that same type of ability that WWE just can't figure anything out. So if you ask me, send Buddy Murphy to AEW and stick him right smack dab in the center of the fucking ring with Kenny Omega and give me a 30-minute match. So I think the future is bright for all of these people. When WWE releases names this big, you don't have to worry too much about their livelihoods. It's still sad. This still sucks very, very much. But I'm not going to be worried too much that Braun Strowman is going to be sleeping in his car again or homeless. None of these guys are. They're going to find work. They're going to make money. They're going to be just fine, even if that means coming back to the WWE one day in the future. Bottom line is there's too much talent in this batch of releases for them just to be sitting at home. We'll see him again, and we'll probably see him within 30, 60, or 90 days. Bet your money on it. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for being in here in the chat so far. Before we get into these releases individually, please do me a favor and subscribe and like this video and give that notifications bell a nice little gentle tap. I would appreciate it, and we'll start kind of unpacking this and digesting it here. I'll knock out any super chats that we have. And yeah, we'll go from there. I think Jimmy Anderson, what's up, dude? From across the pond, you came in really early. Didn't they just push Black? Well, I wouldn't say push. They just debuted him, and he started the thing with Big E. But he was in the beginning of at least a storyline on a program. Not sure if it would translate into a push yet. Got to win some matches and get somewhere for it to actually be a push. But bringing him back to TV and then releasing him like this proves to us that this was in the works only within the last few days because they've had creative plans with this guy, all the way up until last week on SmackDown. Sean Rossap, I should shout him out because we are going to read a couple of Fightful Select articles. He actually knew about this last night, didn't report it. He found out, I think, about 3 out of the 5 of these names that were going to be released, and I'm sure that was pretty crazy news to hear, and then a couple of extra surprises today. So Fightful Select followed up on a couple of these stories, which we will read individually. But first, like I said, just run through the names again. Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Ruby Riott, Buddy Murphy, Lana, and Santana Garrett. Man, oh man. Got to shout out Miro. He tweeted out, "You can't fly with the Eagles when you're hanging out with the turkeys." I don't know how you don't bring Lana to AEW with Miro, and put them together. That's almost like kind of a no-brainer there. And Ruby Riott is supremely talented. I want her to get work. I want her to have a contract. And same goes for Buddy Murphy. And Santana Garrett, I absolutely love. I just don't, in terms of how familiar I am with her, we only saw her in NXT, never saw her on the main roster. So, just hope that she finds action somewhere too. But she's somebody else that's just super talented and will be fine in the end of the day. But anyway, let's start with Braun Strowman. Oh, wait, let me make sure there was no other supers. There are a couple more. Let me knock these out first. Michael Cuomo, appreciate the $5. Black went on Twitch talking about his release. I saw it today. It was classy. Guess we can call him Tommy End now again. Yeah, he tweeted out something too. He said it came right out of left field, and that, but then also thanked WWE for his time and for a guy that they jerked around so hard, for him to go out classy like that and thank them after, he could have been an untouchable roster member had they just used him with a fraction of the amount of importance that they used him with in NXT. It's just such a shame. Nikita, appreciate the super chat from you. Damn. Good rest of the day. Mine is almost done. I know, right? This is kind of shocking news. Kevin Hefner, appreciate $5 from you. If WWE sells, Vince would still be in charge, like how Dana White is still in charge of UFC after selling it. Who knows? That's so beyond what we're worried about, but you're right. And thank you for the super chat. But Yeah, when we get into selling and everything, it's, I don't think it's necessarily going to be better or worse for WWE. I think they're still going to be kind of managed the same way. And internally, how it's all structured, you don't even really know that for sure, So, I mean, if they sell, they might really sell. But, Vince might stay in charge, or Vince might, remain as a major board member or the final say. You still need to have that. Because if WWE sells, they could be in danger of becoming WCW, when they sold to Ted Turner, and then Ted Turner, merged with somebody else. And then all of a sudden WCW didn't become important anymore to the company that owned it. And look what happened. So, I think WWE would ensure that if they sell their, company that they've spent the past 60 years, building and creating, that they would have something in place to ensure its longevity, to ensure that it would never happen to them what happened to WCW, basically, you would think. So, yeah, and where that would leave Triple H and Stephanie and all that, I'm sure, like, the company itself, like, internally might, still remain there, but then it's going to be subject to so much more, I don't know, fucking censorship and stuff like that if somebody like Disney owns it or whatever. It's not going to be good for the WWE product. And this is, it's funny how, you got a possibility here. If something like that were to play out, it would almost like be history repeating itself, with WCW. And then, WWE comes up and, annihilates them, maybe AEW, they're in prime position here to be the number one North American company if WWE just keeps going in this weird direction, to where TV is just copy and paste. TV is nonsense. Monday Night Raw is meaningless. It's worthless. Nothing important ever happens. And, when you just don't have any sort of good TV, no good booking, no good storytelling at all, this is a chance you got, to come up and make the fans say, yeah, like, this is nonsense. We're going to watch them. I don't know. But it certainly makes you wonder about what the hell is going on in WWE. But anyway, let's start with Braun Strowman. Because, like I said, he was the biggest name here. He was probably the most surprising name last year. He was Universal Champion. Hasn't done a whole lot this year. He's lost a lot, actually, but a lot of that has just been due to WWE's lack of vision for him. They haven't done anything creatively with him, and they've completely ruined him from where he was. Think about, was that 2017? Whatever year that was? That feud and that summer he had there with Roman Reigns when he was just looking like an absolute monster. I mean, I was a believer in this guy. I was coming up every week on my reviews, just Strowman this and Strowman that. I'm like, this is WWE's big chance. They're never going to find another Brock or anything, but this guy is so intense that he could, they could maybe make him a monster, and it just went drastically downhill for him. And for them to now flat out release him, that's pretty surprising. But turns out that it may have just been because of his contract. Now, this is a report from Fightful Select earlier today, news on Braun Strowman's release. And I quote here from the article, Braun Strowman's release was likely the most surprising to fans, but talent close to the situation didn't seem to be. Several that we spoke to said Strowman's contract signed in 2019 was a monster deal and that he very much knew his worth when negotiating with the company. His contract came down to the wire in the summer of 2019, and he was signed well into 2023. I read that wrong earlier. I thought it said 2029. 2023 sounds a little bit more reasonable there. For what WWE sources claim was over $1 million per year. Strowman was said to have been very private about negotiating the deal until it was finalized. So you'd think back to that time period then. We're talking the summer of 2019, you've got competition on the horizon. AEW is not quite there and doing their thing yet, but they're still there. Talent is going there, and, it's a place. So he probably used that as leverage, knowing that he could get a job there immediately if he wanted to go over there, and got a lot of what he asked for, primarily money. And apparently he was making over $1 million a year. And that was during a time prior to the pandemic when WWE was really offering a lot of money. Remember that? They offered jobs to all the elite members. They tried to keep on the Revival members for, I think, was what was reported around $800,000 or $900,000 each per year for the Revival to stay there. And, they were really like throwing a lot of money around. Boom, next thing you know, the pandemic hits. They still recorded record profits, but now it's like they're kind of pulling back from that. A couple years ago when all these rights fees and we had just money coming out the ass here, we could throw that at people. Now they're not sure about the future of their business. They go back to live crowds next month, but we're post-pandemic now. So for whatever reason, and like we'll talk about with Aleister Black here in a minute, budget cuts were the reasons here. And I know a lot of people say, oh, they made record profits. It's not. I know it sounds that's the way it should be. They have more than enough money to pay all these people, but they're clearly trying to get some figures down some places, from a budgeting standpoint. So they want to just continue to make more money. And when they see an opportunity to do that, because they would say, okay, what would the company really lose if we cut these 5 people that would, I don't know how many, $3 million, maybe $4 million in total. So maybe not $4 million. It's probably around 3-ish in total salary here for all these people that they cut today. So, if they're just trying to, get the money down or whatever, and they don't feel like the company's really going to suffer without them, I think they can go on to do bigger things elsewhere. But again, is Aleister Black or Braun Strowman enough to tip the scales and make AEW the top company in the world? If you take a educated guess or a calculated risk, you're going to say no. They're going to do very well over there. They're going to help them. But in terms of, being any sort of serious needle mover or, a flipping of the scales, probably not going to happen. So it's probably just down to that. So that's kind of why that fuels a lot of that talk about and speculation about, are they going to sell the company in a couple of years? Are they just trying to get, profits up as high as they can and, the operating income as low as it can and, get everything nice in order to maximize some sort of deal? And some have speculated that's why Nick Khan is there. We've heard about this guy striking a lot of deals. He's a big name that we've heard of almost out of the blue in the past couple of months, and he's at the forefront at a lot of these negotiations. And, maybe he was brought in to set the company up for a sale. Maybe they got a target amount. I saw $5 billion tossed around. Bring him in, get the company worth that much, and sell it for that much. Maybe. I don't know. All I know is it's fucking crazy. Aleister Black was another big release today. And Fightful Select reported on that as well and elaborated a little bit more. And I quote the article here. Aleister Black's release is a puzzling one within WWE. While Thea Trinidad, a.k.a. Zelina, was back at the WWE PC recently, Fightful has not heard any specific plans for her. We've not heard that an official contract has been signed or that she was factored into WWE creative plans for Black. Aleister Black was brought back to TV to kick off a feud with Big E, which we're told had no long-term end game. I was wondering that myself. I was like, well, what the fuck are they going to do here? I don't want to see either one of these guys lose. And many of those associated with putting together the story didn't even know that he was being released. Recently, creative was told to stop making pitches for Black, but weren't told why. Well, I guess this is why. And like we said, he just kicked off this thing with Big E, and apparently they even recorded a new theme song for him. And I guess he jumped on Zelina Vega's stream today and said a few nice things about WWE and said that budget cuts were the reason given to him in terms of his release. But his release, really kind of illustrates when these decisions were made. I don't know how long these have been in the works, that they've been thinking about Braun for a while, but when you just have Black on TV like 9 days ago and now he's released and he's new and he's in a brand new program 9 days ago and then he's released, that means the decision came sometime between then and now. So otherwise, if they plan to release him, why are they even going through with this? Just to fool him so they don't clue him in that he might be getting let go? It's just and now it's going to have a huge hole in your storylines. None of this is Big E's fault. Nobody in association with the storyline had any idea this was going to happen. But now you got a character, Big E, who was attacked by Aleister Black, and now he's gone. He's got no way to get revenge. Is Big E just going to go on TV and just pretend it never happened? So, God. And Aleister Black is a guy that I remember, when he was off TV, and the whole deal went down with Zelina. We were saying here on the show or on the podcast, this guy has got to get released. I want him to get released because he is so fucking good. And when I saw the matches he would have in NXT when he was champion there with Andrade and Gargano and guys like that, I was at TakeOver in 2018 and watched a great match he had with I think Johnny, or was it Ciampa? I forgot. Awesome fucking match. And I just was really started getting in love with that character. I'm like, this guy is money. He is so good. And I think an environment like AEW would be so much better for someone like him, than being lost in the bullshit in WWE. But then when they brought him back and we saw vignettes on SmackDown, okay, he's back. At least they're using him. But what did I say? I said I didn't have a whole lot of confidence. Yeah, he's there. He's under a new gimmick. Reading the book seems like, kind of like a devilish type of character, which he already was, but they're actually going to maybe take it seriously. I trusted Aleister to come through with the part. I know he'd knock it out of the park. I know the character would be very good and very intriguing and very, very good in the ring, but I didn't trust WWE to be able to follow through with it, to actually make him somebody worth watching or an actual championship contender, which I think he should on any level, whether it be IC, US, or World, or Universal. I think he's talented enough to challenge for all of those. So if they're not going to do with him and they're going to keep this guy that's just sitting there getting older, and very, very capable of being a top player, and they're not going to do anything with him, let him go somewhere where they will do something with him. We saw, guys like Brody Lee and shit, like what they can do when they hop over there and work for a company that appreciates their talent. That would be a fantastic, I'm not saying replacement for Brody Lee, but a fantastic maybe new leader for the Dark Order, Aleister Black. I almost wish there was some history there with him and Brody Lee. I don't think there is, but if there was, you could tie that in a little bit. It would be awesome. So, the matches he could have there are phenomenal. I think he could be a top star there. He could go to Japan. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of options here for this talent. That's if there's any silver lining here is that WWE has released some really good people, or people in situations where they're going to find work. Like Lana. Lana worked very hard. Lana's a great heel promo. Lana's got character to her. She's not much in the ring, and we've kind of made fun of her here and there on the channel or whatever, but Lana is still a good performer. And when you got Miro right over there in AEW, wouldn't be that surprising to see her hop over there as well. And, they're all going to be fine. And Ruby too, so what was the decision making behind keeping or releasing Ruby, keeping Liv, What a mess. Anyway, but in terms of Black, I'll have to go and actually look at what he said on Zelina's stream. I only kind of wrote down the transcript there. I didn't see it, but people were talking about it. And he tweeted out, like I said, that came out of left field, and that he thanked WWE for his time there. So ever the professional, Aleister Black. I guess he's going to go back to being Tommy End now, which is a cool name. And best of luck to him. He is, if anybody had a reason to take some parting shots at WWE, I think from a creative standpoint. Internally, everybody probably treated him well. He probably had a good relationship with anybody. It's not like it was all tense there and they were shitting on him all the time. But from a creative standpoint, it seems like he would have an axe to grind a little bit. Like, what the fuck, man? You just wasted my time for the past couple of years when I could have been, bettering myself as a performer, been places, working places, things like that. Yeah, you paid me, but, you didn't do shit with me. And, he kept it cool, and thanked him for his time and all of that. So for people like that, you just really hope that, they can land on their feet, they can go elsewhere, they can do more things, because that's what they deserve, man. All these pieces of talent are good. Let me knock out a couple of supers, then we'll talk about Lana. Domination Warrior, appreciate the $5 from you, dude. 2017 was peak Strowman. 2018 Murphy was one of the reasons 205 Live ruled. Guess we'll have Andrade Tommy Yen match soon after all. Yip. Yeah, we probably will. And when Murphy, they're finally trying to get him over when he won like the Cruiserweight title in Australia and all that stuff and the big pop. And, we all talked about how ridiculously good he was. And then whatever year that was, what was it? Right before the pandemic, I think they kind of set him up with the deal with Roman. And he had a couple really good outings with Roman, and then they put him with Seth Rollins, and he's another guy that just totally suffered creatively, trying to make him have the love angle with the Rey Mysterio's daughter and everything. It's like, dude, he's so fucking good. It shouldn't take a genius to get a guy like this over. My God, just put him in the ring, let him wrestle, and give him wins. Thank you, Roy. Appreciate the $5 from you as well. Black and Murphy will thrive anywhere. The others, not so much. I think the others will thrive too, not just them. Deshaun Robinson, good to see you back, man. Appreciate the $2 on Twitch. Said Black said his clause ends September 2nd. What are we in now? June. Okay, so that's so he's got a 90-day, right? All of June. Oh yeah, 90-day on him. Some might have a 30, some might have a 60. Did I get everybody there? All right, I think that catches up the super chats for right now while there's noises being made in my house. All right, cool. All right, let's get into Lana. Lana was also in these names of releases. We just saw her on Monday night. She had a tag team title match with Naomi, taking on the champs, whoever the fuck they are. And they lost. So, no, they took on Mandy and Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. That's right. The champs were doing commentary on the outside. So that's kind of sad for a couple of reasons. Number one, they have these women's tag team titles, and they literally have no teams. And here they've broken up two of them by releasing Lana and releasing Ruby Riott. These are teams that you could keep together and just have run and give them stuff to do and matches and try to create an actual tag team division. But this company is such a mess from a booking standpoint. They don't know what they're doing, and they just decide shit on the fly. And when you have a floating title, you can't just book shit during lunch that day. You can't write Raw at 1 p.m., and we have no like idea of what you're even doing here. This just sucks. There's another reason why I thought Natalia's promo was so damn stupid. She's crying about these titles. I mean, these titles are worthless. They're worthless. They mean nothing at all on the roster. And now you have a division that already doesn't exist, and you break up two of your tag teams and release your talent. So none of this seems to make any sense. And that's the weird thing here. A lot of times you can sometimes in your head justify certain releases, even though they're sad, even though they're unfortunate. You can kind of say, okay, I kind of get it, type of thing. These don't make any sense. None of these pieces of talent make any sense because they all had something to offer, all the way down to Santana Garrett, because it's not her fault they brought her to the main roster and did dick with her. She's just there. She's doing what she's told. All right, you thought enough of me to put me on TV on your big shows, and then we forgot. Forget it. We just don't feel like it. So we'll just release her because we don't want to think. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? It's just like, what the fuck? There are so many people. If you ask me, release some of your contracts internally. Well, actually, they did that. They actually gutted a lot of stuff, which is adding to these selling rumors with them taking care of doing a number on WWE studios. And a lot of longtime employees were let go just in the past couple of weeks. So it's not just talent. But from a creative standpoint, like if you want to save yourself some more money, it seems to me like this company is wasting an awful lot of money paying writers, bookers, and creative talent when it looks like one guy is writing this and he's a 7th grader in fucking Louisiana somewhere. It's ridiculous. So I think if you want to save yourself some more money, just do away with the whole creative team because it ain't working. You'd be much better off just literally having one person do it than a team of people probably all making 6 figures each. You know what I mean? What the F? By the way, for those of you who are here, thank you. Subscribe, like the video, and that notification bell. Nice little tap. Just hook it up. But in terms of Lana, getting back to her, I think that she could go to AEW for sure and just, reappear with Miro. She's at least going to be there now. Now that she's not working in WWE, I'm sure she's going to join Miro, probably backstage a lot at a lot of AEW shows. She's going to be there. It would be silly almost not to bring her in. Miro's still a heel right now, and if you wanted to add her to the mix, you could. And, like I said, for what a lot of Lana can't do, there's a couple things she can do. And one of those is cut a heel promo. She's great. She is. She's great. You remember, she got the shit boot out of her all the time. And then she had an accident and then she didn't. And, she was so full of herself and she was good at that. She was good at being that way. She's almost like, she's like a heel Cody Rhodes, just very self-indulgent, very much thinks that everybody cares about her when they don't, and she's good at coming across that way. So I think she'd be great with Miro. So bring her in. Fuck yeah. I'm sure she's got a no-compete as well. Ruby Riott is probably one of the sadder ones of all of them, because with Aleister Black and Braun Strowman, you're like, okay, they're automatically getting contracts. They're going to be fine somewhere else. They're going to be making money. They won't even miss a beat. Ruby Riott will also find work, but maybe just not on the level. I feel like Ruby would be great in AEW as well because the women's division continues to grow there and needs to grow more. But I also think she'd be very good in Impact, and she'd be a good asset there and stuff. So she's somebody that I think will find work. She might bounce around a little bit, though. She might be somebody that, turns up in NWA and AEW and Impact or, maybe does something like that instead of just coming straight in. But, if AEW picked her up, they need help on the women's roster. It's been getting it's improved very, very greatly in the last year or so. But we saw the, direction and the status and, basically the situation it was in back when it started and how much it needed to grow, and it's gotten better. Now you got Britt Baker on top of the division and you can build underneath her. And so Ruby Riott is another one that she can come in as a wrestler. Lana, I'd rather just have as a personality. Don't really care much for Lana in the ring, to be honest. But Ruby Riott, is somebody that can have great matches. Put Ruby and Serena Deeb together, and have them tear it up on a buy-in show somewhere like Serena and Riho did at Double or Nothing. So, she's another one that I think will find work, but again, it's sad to see that she left. It sounds like she left a lot of friends behind. She was one of the cooler ones on the roster. I think a lot of the girls liked her, and with, with the women's rosters and stuff throughout the years, we know that's very easy, even easier than the men, for them to develop tensions and jealousy and issues with each other. And Ruby seems to be somebody that just kind of gets along with everybody. She seems like a sweetheart and truly cares about her sisters in the locker room. And that was conveyed by Bayley in a tweet, talking about all the nice things she did for the locker room and how it just breaks her heart. Renee Paquette seemed a little bit devastated about this as well, even called it a horrible mismanagement of really good talent, which is exactly what it is, a horrible mismanagement of really, really good talent. So Ruby, I think, is the one that made me the saddest, because even though I'm certain she's talented enough to be fine and always have a job in wrestling, maybe not so much as Strowman and Black, you know what I mean, in terms of, they're going to just land right on their feet immediately. She will find work. She'll make money. Everything will be fine. But, I think WWE had a good one here. They had a good piece of talent with her. She was very capable. And, if they just would have put some time and energy and effort into her, I think she would have been a great candidate for Lily, if they wanted to resurrect Lily into human form, if it doesn't turn out to be Alexa Bliss herself. Ruby Riott would have fit that bill perfectly. But some of these releases seem lazy. It's like, we just don't want to think of anything for Ruby. Yeah, we know she's perfectly capable, perfectly talented. We just don't want to. It literally feels like that's what it is. It just, at the end of the day, it boils down to laziness. I'm not just speculating, but that's what it seems like, because it shouldn't be hard. This is not rocket surgery to fucking book these people with purpose and meaning and put them in, compelling storylines. It should be fun. Your creative team should want to do it. You should say, oh man, I got this great idea, so, whatever the situation is, Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, or the system in general that seems to really hinder the growth of great ideas creatively, whatever that is, the talent suffers for it. And it's criminal and frustrating. It's frustrating. Why bring Aleister Black? Put him through all this shit. Bring him there, dress him up, and make him read a fucking book and pay money to have a new theme song made for him and have all this shit, and then just say, we're just going to release him. What are you doing? That's why I understand the speculation that there might be a bigger story at play here with these guys. Buddy Murphy, like we said, is another kind of head-scratching one, because he had all the talent in the world. There was no reason not to keep him there. They tried to give him opportunities, remember? And what did he do in those opportunities? Came through. What more could you ask of him? Let's put him with a high-profile talent, with Roman Reigns, with Seth Rollins, with Rey Mysterio. Let's see how he performs. He performed his balls off. So what's wrong? What's the problem? There's been plenty of wrestlers that have gotten over throughout the years that don't have the charisma level of a Ric Flair. Guys like Chris Benoit and Rob Van Dam, and just really good, solid in-ring workers that weren't the Rock on the mic, but could do everything else. And Buddy Murphy is like that. He's good looking, he's good in the ring, he's got good size, he can have good matches with anybody, and he's another guy that's just too good to never find work. Imagine him in New Japan. Holy shit, that would be good. The match in my head that immediately came to mind was Kenny and Buddy in AEW. Put Buddy in one of those casino things, let him grab a thing and get a title shot against Kenny on Dynamite, and just have a great 30-minute match, kick-ass match, and, have Kenny beat him. But, just think about that match, if we can somehow get that. If we can get Buddy Murphy over to AEW immediately and just stick him in the ring with Omega, that would be some fun shit. And there's lots of guys like that, that he could work with from a really good in-ring perspective that they could get a little bit more, appreciation from the fans, where WWE, every time they put him in the ring, he has a kick-ass match, but it never means anything because it's always SmackDown and nothing means anything on the TV shows. But, you put him on just an AEW show, or you put him on a pay-per-view, stick him in the ring with Adam Page or something, magic can happen. So he's another guy that I'd like to see turn up and appear in one of those factions. I think he'd be a great Pinnacle member, dress him up, reunite him with the Revival. I'm sure they knew each other a little bit in WWE. He'd be a good member of a faction, I think, even. Be a good way to, help get him started. So sky's the limit for him, too. But again, he's one of the more frustrating ones, because they shouldn't have released him at all. Because every time they asked him to do something, he did it and did it well. So what the fuck? And I'm sure budget cuts were the same reason given to him. Like I said about the other ones that Fightful Select followed up on a couple of these releases, like we talked about earlier, they also had a small article up on an elaboration on Ruby Riott and Murphy's releases as well. And I quote, among the releases that we've heard about, Ruby Riott's release definitely seemed to shake the roster the most. Very interesting, based on those we spoke to. Riott was universally popular backstage and commended for her hard work often. Much of the same case with Buddy Murphy, who we're told was not in the creative forecast for WWE as of late. There were pitches for Murphy to team with Wesley Blake again before his release, but they were ultimately shot down. Murphy was said to be easy to work with and generally receptive to creative. Yeah, you would think so, especially when they're making you have a romantic relationship with a 19-year-old when you're 32. So he and Ruby both seemed to be two people that were incredibly well liked, easy to work with, didn't cause any fucking problems, and did well. They performed well. It's not like they were lacking in performance. Buddy can tear it up in the ring. So can Ruby Riott. They both have all the talent in the world, and they're both easy to work with and easy to manage. They are the model employee, both of them. So what gives? Like I said, it's not like they're not capable. If WWE just did something, if they just put together a really fun long-term storyline for Ruby Riott and just sat around a table for a few days with 3 people and come up with something for her long-term for the next 6 months and just let her go out there and do it, it would be good, especially if you actually care and put time. Not your typical, let's just have her come out there and cut a promo and somebody interrupt her, we'll go to commercial, we'll come back and there'll be an impromptu match. None of that shit. Like an actual fucking storyline instead of the copy and paste recycled nonsense that just is littered throughout their Raw and SmackDown TV shows. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because all these people could be stars. All these people could be money makers for WWE if they just gave a fuck. And I think that's, where a lot of the frustrations come around because, come from. It's because why is one talent there and one's not? We're getting all these evolution fucking vignettes. And I'm not even anti-Eva. I don't even give a shit that she got hired back. Don't care. And it's not a case of, WWE let all these go so they can pay her. None of that is the case. So don't even say that in the comments. But like when you think about how much of TV has people that some of us don't want to see or maybe don't give a shit about, and then they take really good talent and just cast them aside for whatever. And that's why just the whole game of pro wrestling has changed. It's not the same anymore. It's not structured the way it was in 1998 during the height of the Attitude Era and everything, where creativity was at its hottest peak and where WWE was really having fun with their storylines and stuff. Now it's like WWE is such a machine. It's such a digital business. It's just so it feels like it's just one big computer. That's just recycling and running shows, and it literally doesn't matter. We have Monday nights sometimes. We'll get 2 hours, 1 hour before showtime. They haven't tweeted one thing about Raw. Not one match, not one preview, not one stupid Miz TV segment, nothing. It's literally like they're scribbling this shit down as they go, oh fuck, we forgot to put the Miz or Morrison on the show. Okay, put him in there and just have fucking Rhea Ripley come out and kick him in his nuts or something, and have him wear guard. Like, I don't know. Nothing goes into this. They just scribble it down, print it, get it out. Here you go. Go give it to Jimmy Smith and the commentary team and run with it. It's there's no love put in it. I think backstage, I don't know what the atmosphere is like and what it feels like from a creative standpoint to be in the inner circle, writing down TV and booking shows. But I can't imagine that the enthusiasm is very high. I imagine it's very stressful. All right, let's just get this fucking shit done. Instead of what should be, a fun table reading with a bunch of creative people laughing. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. And blah, 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 blah. Oh, what if we do this? And oh, yeah, that's great. And, I just don't feel like that's the atmosphere at all. I think it's tense. I think it's, and it's very formulaic. And it's so much TV that it moves too fast for them now. No matter how many people they hire, it moves too fast. They don't have time to, that's why the pandemic would have been a good time for a pause. But they were so fucking hell-bent on not missing one goddamn week of business when they could have just said, all right, we're going to swallow it. It's going to suck. Obviously we can't do this. But if they just kind of took 3-month period little break there to where they can really kind of reset, reorganize. All right, when we resume shows, just quit until you make the Thunderdome. I know none of this can happen because the TV deals with Fox and USA and that shit, they're required to put out content. I get it. But, if there was a way to somehow pause, to where they can kind of regroup, refocus, get their bearings straight, come up with ideas creatively for when everything starts coming back, and at least, kind of give yourself a head start when you get back of where you want to go, where you want to be, from a creative standpoint and stuff. But, the last year has been very damaging to them because they've lost the crowd reaction. Not that they gave a fuck about the crowd reaction anyway, but that is how you gauge stuff. And gauge how over somebody is or whether or not a storyline is working out or, if a promo is good. All of that is kind of out the window and it's been there. So none of that, though, should have had anything to do with these releases. So there's a lot of curious questions going on in WWE right now. It feels like it's a complete 180 from a couple of years ago where we were talking here just on the podcast that they were throwing a lot of money around and they were trying to do everything they could to hinder the growth of AEW by keeping on a lot of talent or holding them hostage. Remember how long it took them to release the Revival, to release Brody Lee, and guys like that, because they just wanted to keep there to prevent them. They were willing to spend the money and waste the money just to pay them to sit at home and not go to AEW. That doesn't seem like the situation now. Now it seems like the last thing they care about is how much of their talent goes over there. Maybe they're trying to sabotage AEW. Maybe they're trying to do to AEW what happened to them, give them too much talent to where that they know what to do with and they can't manage it. I would think that AEW is going to be smarter than that and try to learn from those mistakes. And let's say, well, let's just give them all of our fucking talent and see what they can do. Maybe it'll be too much for them too. I don't think that'll be the case. But you would have to think, at least with today's batch, not with all batches of release, not everybody who gets released. I'm not even looking at the chat right now, and I already know AEW's WWE rejects. I already know those comments, which is stupid. Not every released talent needs to go there, but in terms of today's batch, look at those names. There ain't one of them that other than maybe Santana, that I would say, no, they'd be a bad fit in AEW. They'd all be a great fit there, and there'd be a place for all of them there. That might not be the case with the last batch of releases that we saw. Maybe not the cases with, guys like Alexander Wolf and certain guys like that. But look at this crew. Look at that crew on the screen, man. My God, blows my mind. We'll have to see if any more releases happen today. I hope they don't. I got to go to work. I got a busy day today. I don't have time to do fucking videos and releases. Oh, that's sad. Drake Wirtz. I thought it said he tested positive. He admits he tested positive for COVID. Oh, wow. He had tested positive for a hoax. Interesting. No new releases, at least from what I can see right now on the interwebs or on the Twitters. So at least everybody is safe for right now. But when you see... Oh, wow, I read something else. But when you see the names like this all in one batch, it makes you wonder who's next. So what do y'all think? Let me cruise over here to the chat, make sure there's nothing else I missed. Just one more. Deshaun, appreciate $2 from you, dude. Word is that Lana has been training with the Hearts. That's awesome. Yeah, Lana has gotten better in the ring. I just don't consider Lana to be just a really solid in-ring worker yet. And that's just me being honest. I like Lana a lot. Like I said, she's a hell of a heel promo. And she has a place in wrestling. She has a place in the ring with a microphone in her hand for sure. She has a place as a valet. She has a place as a partner for Miro. And then she wants to continue to work and continue to get better in the ring, let her. But to me, WWE putting her in the ring and everything, I think the team with Naomi was actually a good idea. Just have her in a tag team and put her with Naomi, and they, she can grow and improve there. But now they've released her, and if she has been training and working out a little bit with Natty, that's pretty good. Natty's a good teacher. And yeah, Murphy was our buddy. He was, man. Corey Johnson, everybody sucked. Your mom sucked. My God. Murphy to Ring of Honor, that'd be awesome. Braun to Impact, Lana, Black, Ruby to AEW. I could see Braun appearing in Impact, but we're going to see Braun in AEW. There's no way we don't. That dude was making $1 million a year. He's not going to Impact. I mean, if he's going to Impact, I don't think it's going to be exclusively to Impact. I should say that. Hell, if anything, I kind of wish that I don't want to wish anybody. I shouldn't say this, but if Baron Corbin would have been one of these names, I would have loved to watch my argument that I had with people a year or so ago come true. There was a big debate one time on this podcast. People were getting so salty and so triggered. It was hilarious. And I made the offhanded comment because I was of the opinion, look, I know Baron Corbin's annoying as fuck, but the dude can work. He can work. Say it. You can claim he sucks all he wants. You've never been in the ring. He has. He can work. Trust me. He can work. And if he was released, AEW absolutely would pick him up. And of course, oh my God, what? They sucks. They would never want anything to do with him. That's what they said. I'm like, oh yeah? I'm like, if he got released, he would be signed immediately by AEW. Abso-fucking-lutely. Heat magnet. He would absolutely be brought there. And it was this big thing. So I almost kind of wish that he was one of these names just so I could be like, told you. But like I said earlier, it does make you wonder about some other talent in WWE. Let's just hope that it doesn't get too bad. You know what I mean? A lot of people have said, like Psychotic is here. I had a couple of tweets about this. They were saying, like, I think this is it for me. Like, I'm done with WWE. And I can kind of understand that because you can't get invested in a product when there's so many crazy, volatile changes going on, like extreme changes, whether it be behind the scenes or on camera. WWE, more than ever, seems to be the biggest mess that it's ever been. And I know they're trying to, present this image of, they're a company, just a well-oiled machine that just prints money. And that's kind of what it comes down to. They're just, creative is secondary. What they produce on TV is secondary, and the ratings are showing it. People aren't watching. People don't give a shit. I've still been doing Raw reviews, but I should think about just stopping doing that because there's no reason to review it. There's nothing going on the shows, and it's just horribly boring. So this whole thing is just sad, man. Vince has become Ted Turner. He might become Ted Turner at some point. With WWE, definitely boycott WWE. I can't do that. I mean, you can. WWE is going out of business. No, not that. They're not going out of business in the way we think, anyway. AEW taking over the wrestling world. Yeah, I mean, this is all good for AEW, but I'm not like, don't get ahead of yourselves. Oh, AEW is just going to put WWE out of business now. WWE is, these talents aren't jumping ship. WWE is offering them up. Here you go. We don't want them. So when they're willing to do that, they're not gonna fight so hard, to do everything they can to stop AEW and everything, and then just like lay down and let them pin them. No, that's not what's happening. They feel that these are expendable talents. They feel that even if they go to AEW, it's not going to do anything to really truly move the needle, and they're right. As much as we hate them, they're right about that. AEW, like Lana and some of these guys, and Aleister Black and Braun Strowman and AEW are going to be fun and awesome. But it ain't going to tip the scales. Not going to make it all just reverse and everything. What we have to hope for is AEW fans and WWE fans really is that AEW just continues to grow and gain momentum. That's what you want. Right now, as good as AEW is doing, and despite the pandemic, I think they've had a fantastic first couple of years, but it's still WWE here and AEW here. So, we got to get them a little bit closer like WCW did as they got better and they improved and they started signing the Hogans and the Savages, and the ratings started getting better and they started beating WWE and that sort of thing. I mean, that was a gradual process. Didn't happen overnight. So even when Nitro started, it took a while before Nitro was consistently kicking their ass. It took until the NWO. So, it was a slower process. So with AEW, that's what we want. If they continue to gain momentum and become bigger and bigger and bigger competition for WWE, that's going to push WWE to maybe finally wake the fuck up and say, okay, we can't just write these shows over our Chipotle lunch every day. We have to fucking get ahead of this and just present and produce better quality TV. It's not all about the lights and the lasers and the production and the theme music and the shaky cameras. You got to have substance there. And they're going to realize that the more and more AEW's momentum continues to grow, because when you look at AEW, there is multiple long-term storylines in place in that company that could tie up even like a year down the line and stuff. There's so much there. You got an unresolved like long-term issue with Cody and MJF that'll happen at some point. Adam Page and Omega and and Elite Guy, and there's just so much there that you can like tie in, and there's nothing like that going on in WWE. They just fly by the seat of their pants. So there's a little bit more love and attention to detail creatively, I think, in a company like AEW. And if they continue to do that, continue to gain momentum, and maybe continue to chip away at some of WWE's numbers, where they're starting to pay attention a little bit more, and they're saying, okay, maybe we're not going to send any more talent over there now. And we're going to actually try to compete with them. How are they beating us? What are they? Because they're not better than us in terms of production and scale and stuff like that, or talent. They don't have better talent than we do. They don't have better production than we do. So what do they have better than us? Storytelling. So maybe that will get to the point where WWE realizes that, and like we saw in the Monday Night Wars, it might be a rejuvenation. I mean, this is extremely best case scenario here, extreme best case scenario, likely not going to happen, but maybe this could be, the birth or the seeds planted of what will become a very intense and very fun wrestling war again. Maybe WWE's trying. Do you ever think about that? Like, how there's a story of like the Montreal Screwjob was a work, and Bret Hart was a mole sent to WCW to like tear him down or whatever. What if this is WWE's way of upping their own competition? They're looking at the ratings. They're looking at what the fans are saying and how much we hate all this bullshit and how every single show, aside from pay-per-views and whatever Roman Reigns is doing on SmackDown, aside from that, everything is meaningless. So they're like, well, let's build up AEW a little bit. Let's help them out. Let's release some talent, cut some talent that we know they'll pick up, and let them go there, increasing AEW's momentum that will light a fire under our ass to get our own shit going. Maybe it's like, they're trying to recreate what WCW was doing because AEW isn't quite doing to WWE what WCW was doing in terms of numbers and ratings and shit like that. So, but they are gaining momentum and they are doing very well. So maybe I don't know. It's just weird conspiracy theory. Maybe they want this to happen. Damn, I don't know. It's crazy. Whatever the situation is here. You got to wonder just like what the full motivation is. Yes, I know it's budget cuts, but how will this unfold the future? What will this mean? And will there be more? They might build the end of themselves. You're right. Maybe this is one of these weird ass calculated risks Vince always likes to take and talk about or whatever. And he's like, hey, we're just going to cut, 20% of our talent. Many of these guys can go over to do to AEW, and maybe this helps the wrestling landscape in general in the long run, because that's the one thing we have to hope for. Because one of the reasons I think I'm so passionate about fans that are so anti-AEW is they're so fucking stupid to be that way. I'm like, how in the world could you not root for a North American wrestling promotion? We are in more desperate need of that than ever before. So why Jim Cornette likes to spend 2 hours a week on his podcast just trashing these people when the wrestling business is so close to just being unrecognizable due to what WWE has done to it. To root against that is so counterintuitive. It's so fucking dumb. And it's so mean-spirited because there's nothing else behind it other than the fact that you're annoyed with fans on the other side. Get a life. Get a fucking life. And actually get a life. They're fun if you actually have one. And don't worry about the fans. Fuck them. They're cult-like fans. Ignore the cult. Fuck the cult. What we're worried about here is trying to better the wrestling in the world. And when WWE is cornering the market the way they do, and they've got such a monopoly on everything, you need somebody to rise up and create competition for them, because the last time we had that, wrestling was pretty fucking awesome. So for you to not want that is crazy. You got an applesauce brain to not want that to be the case. You're not a wrestling fan if you don't want wrestling to be good. If you want wrestling to suck, what kind of fucking human being are you? Get the fuck out of my chat. It makes no sense. So the more competition we have, the better wrestling will be in general. Each company pushes the other to do better. See how it works? I'm older than most of you. I remember the Monday Night Wars. I lived it. I breathed it. I was in my mid-20s during the Attitude Era, the best age to be. And I was a kid during rock and wrestling, the best age to be. I've seen it all. And I remember how good things were when you have two competing organizations. And if you can have that, the wrestling will get better. And now you've got one that seemingly here is going to have a little bit of talent injection. And AEW's already filled out their roster. They're not in a position to where they're just going to sign everybody, but they're going to take the big names. And when you think about Aleister Black, you think about Braun Strowman, and you think about another name that's still out there like Samoa Joe, you also have to wonder how much WWE gives a shit about Daniel Bryan at this point. Would they let him go? Or they not re-sign him? I think Daniel Bryan will be back. I think Daniel Bryan's kind of above a lot of people in terms of, stroke and what he can get done and things like that. But, if he was a priority, let's sign Daniel Bryan at all costs. And that was a priority 2 or 3 weeks ago. Maybe that's not a priority anymore. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But, it just bums me out, you know? Like, I think a lot of people are getting turned off now by the WWE product. And when this news came out today, I saw a lot of the same comments. I'm sick of this shit, sick of this company, going to take a break. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. This is the final one. You know, that sort of thing. A lot of that type of chatter today on social media, here in the chat and elsewhere, that people are just kind of disgusted, you know, with this company, that, you know, budget cuts or releasing talent that, you know, you're not doing anything with. That's one thing, but releasing talent that can make so much money for you, that comes off as very head scratching. That doesn't make sense. And it angers a lot of people. And those people are right. This is unfortunate, but, it's the nature of the business, you know, I guess. And I just hate, you know, I used to be that kid, you know, when I remember as a kid, I was like, man, I wonder if I could, you know, I wonder if I could become a wrestler and wrestle the Ultimate Warrior before he retired or whatever, you know. And think about like how many of you and kids just had this dream of like being in the WWE one day. And imagine you're a talent that, you know, wanted to be in the WWE since you were 4 and you worked your nuts off to get there, you know, and you bled and you sweat and you cried and you slept in your car. And talent today doesn't really do that. But, you know, you have a long road to get there. You realize your dream. You're so happy to be in this company. It's been your whole life. It's all you've thought about since the day you were born, is just to get there. And now you're there and you realize what a fucked up place it is. And you're there for a year and they release you. That's a situation with a lot of talent these days, you know, who grew up as kids fantasizing about being there. They get there, they're there for a year, they're cut. Dream gone. That's why I've always said, take opportunities over your dreams. I hope that everybody chooses opportunities over dreams. Dreams are just a byproduct of sleep, you know. Take your opportunities, and that's what you should do. My God. It's sad. Thank you, Stone Cold X, for the $5 flying in. I hate all the releases, I guess, but I'm too much of a fan to stop watching. Yeah, I mean, we're all wrestling fans. I'm not spiteful like that. I've seen so many people over the years when, you know, they get a bad Raw, or when John Cena won a match, boycott John Cena. I'm canceling my WWE network over dramatic little girls. You know, like we gotta keep our emotions in check here. Yeah, this is fucking ridiculous, but I got a YouTube channel. I just can't stop watching. Y'all can if you want, you know, but like, this is what I do. This is like my second job. I enjoy it. I love hanging out with you guys. So I'm not just going to cover AEW. That's going to be detrimental to my channel. So I'm always going to cover WWE, even, you know, if it's when it's frustrating. But at the end of the day, I am a wrestling fan. At the end of the day, as bad as WWE is, we still get some great fucking matches on TV and pay-per-views almost weekly. It's a regular occurrence because the talent there is really good. You know, even when Riddle and Xavier are wrestling in what really is essentially a meaningless match, they tear the house down on Monday Night Raw. Pay-per-views are good. You know, they're still going to, WrestleMania was great. You know, we all shed a tear for Bianca Belair. SummerSlam looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be there, most likely. So, you know, it's, I'm always willing to find the good in it, but, you know, it's hard to ignore the bad, and it's hard to ignore, you know, what they're doing, their decisions, and what the fuck is going on internally in that WWE brain machine. I don't know why these decisions are made. It's ridiculous. Zane, appreciate $5 from you. Do you think WWE will bring back Ruby, since when Sarah Logan was released, she was brought back for a brief stint? Yeah, I think all this talent could be brought back. Like if it's budget cuts, maybe they're willing to bring them back for, you know, a cheaper price or something, and that could happen. But I think for now, I just want Ruby to do what Ruby wants. From a fan standpoint, I'm looking at Ruby Riott, I would almost prefer from a wrestling fan standpoint that Ruby goes somewhere else, because she's been in WWE for a while and I don't do anything with her. Every time she's on TV, it's meaningless. But if she's happy in WWE, that's where her friends are, she's making the money there, I want her to do what she wants. So if she'd prefer to stay there, and she'd be willing to stay there if they cut her contract a little bit, I got Ruby's back. But as a fan, if it was up to me, which it's not, none of us are them, so we should not say what they should do. It's up to them what they do. But as a wrestling fan, I would love to see Ruby Riott go elsewhere. Impact, NWA, AEW, help build up their women's roster a little bit. That's what I would love to see above WWE. So I'm actually, you know, from a wrestling fan standpoint, I'm almost glad she's out of there so I can see her in another environment. Tom Phillips was the same way. We've all talked about how good we thought he was of an announcer, and I would love to see him in an environment that's less produced, where he doesn't have somebody in his ear all the time. He could probably be really, really fucking good. So we've seen that before with WWE. They released Drew McIntyre. What happened? Left, became a big star, came back, beat Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania. So that can be the story for a lot of these guys if that's, you know, if that's the road they choose. So we'll just have to wait and see. Kevin Hefner, $2 more from you. I missed that one earlier. Altogether, 90% of the releases were dead weight. Disagree. They were not dead weight. They were dead weight by no fault of theirs, if anything. But I think they all had something to offer. WWE sucks at making the best of their talent, is what it is. Joey's Adventures, $2 from you. Thanks, dude. Bray is the only Wyatt family member left. Well, one's unfortunately passed away, but yeah, Rowan and was released, and so was Braun. That's a shame, but there was a picture floating around the internet today of a bunch of guys on a bus, all shirtless. And the only one in there that still works there was Bray Wyatt. I think it was like Gallows and Anderson, and it was Buddy, I think, maybe, and it was Strowman, and I think I saw, he was the dude that sang on the commentary team. Aiden English. He was there, a few others. Very sad-looking picture because it's like, man, those guys all travel together, and now look where we are. Do I think the reason Braun Strowman got released is because he dropped the F-bomb last month? I kind of forgot about the F-bomb. That's not the reason he got released, no. I think this comes down to contract money, shit like that. Yeah, Roderick, maybe as stunned as we all are, some may have had hardball WWE with contracts re-signed, so they had to cut them. It is possible, because when you think about, we read the story from Fightful Select earlier about Braun Strowman's contract renegotiations, and, he knew his value. He knew that AEW was coming up and that he could easily go over there, so he, kind of strong-armed him for more money, but that's what you do in business. That's what athletes do. That's what ball players do. That's what everybody does. The problem is this was all done, and WWE was more than willing to pay this money out prior to the pandemic. And I think the pandemic also probably helped shape this current direction of massive cuts and layoffs. Because like I said, this is a 180 from their philosophy before the pandemic. They were all about spending money before it, not about it now. So it's just a shame at the end of the day. Big overhaul, exactly. A lot of major corporations are doing this, and a lot of times you do see this type of stuff prior to a sell, which is another thing. When a lot of you can kind of see them kind of structuring things and kind of setting them up for something. You see that a lot in business and stuff. So I don't know. I might be up here tomorrow with a completely different stream about something else. We'll see. Miro and Lana. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and we got Peyton. Peyton and Billy Kay were ones that shocked us. Think about how shocking those were to us. We're like, wow, I kind of thought that they would give the Iconics a little longer of a chance there. And now you see these names. You're like, holy shit, like literally no one is safe. There's probably 10 pieces of talent there that are safe. McIntyre and AJ and Lashley and Roman, obviously, a few other guys, but man, hell, if anything, I'd release AJ. Well, no, he's probably just gonna wrap things up in WWE, but man, he got just enough time to get him back to AEW and reform with his Bullet Club homies. Man, yeah, Dark Side of the Ring, WWE, good week of programming this week. We got Dark Side of the Ring, which I think is the Jake episode tomorrow, right? That's gonna be gnarly, and then on Sunday, Bret Hart. A&E biography. I'm going to be up here doing a watch-along during the biography, but I do plan to watch it in full, and I'm probably going to do a review on it too, just because it's Bret Hart, and you guys all know how I feel about Bret Hart. Yeah, such a mess. 7 years ago today, Rollins turned on the Shield, and WWE turned on everybody else. Unbelievable. I don't know if you're ever going to hear Triple H's honest opinions. Triple H is always going to do his job of doing that. And plus, of all the things to criticize Triple H for, the one thing I don't give a fuck about with Triple H is him towing the company line. I'm appreciative of Triple H that he's got a good thing going there in NXT, and he's running that the way the entire roster should be ran, with actual care and development and, an evolution of talent. And everybody works so closely with each other, and him and Sean and the trainers there have these relationships with these guys, and they just really want to see them succeed. And they help. And yes, they have to make difficult decisions too by releasing some talent, but they're much more hands-on and they care more. And so if Triple H goes on a conference call and does his corporate shtick, let him. It's a minor gripe I have with Triple H. I don't give a shit. He can do that all he wants. AJ Styles, his birthday is today. He's 45 years old today. Is he really 45? I thought he might be a year younger than that. If Barry's here, what's up, dude? If WWE ever gets sold, wrestling is pretty doomed. They are still strong. They're the face of the sport. If it goes away, there's not much left. I don't think they're going to really go away. I think WWE will still be that. Vince isn't just going to sell and let them fold it. I think WWE is just going to be owned by. It's not going to be a family-owned business anymore, which it really hasn't been since they went public. But it's going to be even different now. It's going to be a different idea with them being owned. It's just going to be subject to so much more scrutiny and shit, and it's going to be so much more difficult for them to get stuff done. I worry about, it's hard enough to do that internally with who you have there with Vince and Kevin Dunn. Now you just add a whole bunch of corporate executive bullshit on top of it, man. I don't know. I'm worried. But WWE has always considered themselves to be like Disney. They've always considered them to be like wrestling Disney, like the biggest name out there. They want, this might be something ultimately that they want. I mean, if they can sell their company for $5 billion, when you think about what Vince bought it for, like, holy shit, crazy. My God. What's going on, Anito Jack? Good to see you, man. Yeah, go away and learn a new hold. That's true. That's what they're all going to do. Man, yeah. Pretty big day. Pretty crazy day. But anyway, I planned on this being like an hour-long stream, so it's just been just an hour now, so I'm probably going to bail out. But I thank all of you for being here this afternoon. If you're new here watching, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Like this video. Please like it on your way out the door. Click that notifications bell, because if we are going to have more releases, if we're going to have more breaking news coming in the next couple of days, I might have to come up here and jump and do another live stream. But as of right now, the plan is for me. I know I kind of threw you guys off a little bit on Monday with my plans, but the plan is actually going to be be up here on Saturday. We'll do another podcast. We'll follow up with this for the Winged Eagle. We're going to be doing it an hour early on Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific. 5 p.m. on the East Coast rather than 3 and 6 p.m. So keep a lookout for that. And then Sunday, we're going to do a watch-along. Still have got to narrow down which one that's going to be, but we'll do that on Sunday. So make sure you subscribe so I can see y'all again in a couple days. So if we have a bunch more WWE releases, or if WWE sells to McDonald's, we will be up here tomorrow with another live stream. I got to head off to work now. So if anything else happens today, it'll be tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll just wait and pick it all back up on Saturday for the podcast, and we might have a lot more to talk about. So you guys have a good rest of your afternoon. Thank you for being here. Follow me on Twitter at GoodMikeWork if you want to talk about this situation some more, and I'll catch you guys in just a couple of days. Y'all be good.